Now, here's the host of the Bible Live, Soapy Dollar.
And here we are. Yes, indeed. Thank you for joining with us tonight, folks, for the Bible Live. I'm really glad you're along with us. I hope that you, too, are going to be glad that you tuned in tonight and every night. Together we join to listen to the Book of Books, the Bible itself, each and every weeknight. Tonight we're going to continue our way through the books of 1st and 2nd Kings. We transitioned last night from the book of 1st Kings into 2nd Kings. Not a huge deal because originally they were one book. So that is the way to read these books, to just read them straight through. That's the way they were written. A record of these kings of the 10 tribes of Israel in the north and Judah in the south. Right after the division, the kingdom of Israel went right off into idolatry, right off into worship of pagan gods, false gods, worshiping the gods of the people groups around them with all of their immorality, with all of their cruelty, because there is an appeal to idolatry. There is an appeal to religiosity. There's power, a lot of power in religion, and there can be a lot of pleasure depending on how you shape it up. And now we have seen the most wicked of the kings of Israel, Ahab and his very wicked wife Jezebel. She is the daughter of a former priest of Baal from Phoenicia, Tyre and Sidon. He actually became the king of Sidon later on. Ahab and Jezebel have been having a powerful, destructive influence on the tribes of the north. And now, through their son Jehoram, they're going to have a tremendous destructive influence on the south as well. I'll tell you a little bit more about it as we approach the reading from 2 Kings tonight. Right now, though, let's go back to Psalm 71. We read the first half of Psalm 71 last night. It's a psalm about God's constant help from childhood to old age. Our entire lives are a testimony of what God can do for us. I hope that's your testimony and your experience. Let's listen to the psalmist tonight on the Bible Live.
Psalm 71, 17 through 24. O God, you have taught me from my earliest childhood, and I have constantly told others about the wonderful things you do. Now that I am old and gray, do not abandon me, O God. Let me proclaim your power to this new generation, your mighty miracles to all who come after me. Your righteousness, O God, reaches to the highest heavens. You have done such wonderful things. Who can compare with you, O God? You have allowed me to suffer much hardship, but you will restore me to life again and lift me up from the depths of the earth. You will restore me to even greater honor and comfort me once again. Then I will praise you with music on the harp, because you are faithful to your promises, O God. I will sing for you with a lyre, O Holy One of Israel. I will shout for joy and sing your praises, for you have redeemed me. I will tell about your righteous deeds all day long, for everyone who tried to hurt me has been shamed and humiliated. End of reading Psalm 71, 17 through 24.
I'm coming back to the heart of worship, and it's all about you, it's all about you, Jesus. I'm sorry, Lord, for the thing I've made.
You're listening to the Bible Live with Soapy Dollar.
It's all about you, Jesus.
And we are back. You are listening to the Bible Live program this evening. We are going to make our way through the books of 1st and 2nd Kings in these days. We've finished now the book of 1st Kings. We'll be picking up tonight in 2nd Kings chapter 3. As I was mentioning before, Ahab and Jezebel have had their destructive influence over the 10 tribes of the north. Jehoshaphat, who is in all other ways, has been a very good and godly king in Judah. He's done a lot of very good things, and he loves the Lord. But he has tried so hard. Now, see if this reminds you of anyone today. I mean, something that sometimes conservatives do, or people who are right. We are so eager to make other people like us that we compromise doing the right thing. And that's exactly what Jehoshaphat does. He is so eager to have Ahab and Jezebel like him, and he may be trying to bring the tribes back together to reunite Israel. But he compromises so very much, and he gives his own son in marriage to Ahab and Jezebel's daughter Athaliah. And that will be a tremendous mistake because she will bring the paganism, the idol worship, false gods down into Judah, and it will have a tremendously destructive impact on the people of Judah as well in Jerusalem, almost wiping out the royal lineage of King David. We're talking about Ahab's son Joram tonight, and we're going to be introduced to Elisha, who has now replaced Elijah as the main prophet of the Lord. We'll see one of the really interesting conversions. Naaman, the captain of the Syrian army, comes to God.
2 Kings 3:1 through 6:7. 2 Kings 3. Ahab's son Joram began to rule over Israel in the 18th year of King Jehoshaphat's reign in Judah. He reigned in Samaria 12 years. He did what was evil in the Lord's sight, but he was not as wicked as his father and mother. He at least tore down the sacred pillar of Baal that his father had set up. Nevertheless, he continued in the sins of idolatry that Jeroboam, son of Nebat, had led the people of Israel to commit. King Mesha of Moab and his people were sheep breeders. They used to pay the king of Israel an annual tribute of 100,000 lambs and the wool of 100,000 rams. But after Ahab's death, the king of Moab rebelled against the king of Israel. So King Joram mustered the army of Israel and marched from Samaria. On the way, he sent this message to King Jehoshaphat of Judah: "The king of Moab has rebelled against me. Will you help me fight him?" And Jehoshaphat replied, "Why, of course. You and I are brothers, and my troops are yours to command. Even my horses are at your service." Then Jehoshaphat asked, "What route will we take?" "We will attack from the wilderness of Edom," Joram replied. The king of Edom and his troops joined them, and all three armies traveled along a roundabout route through the wilderness for 7 days. But there was no water for the men or their pack animals. "What should we do?" the king of Israel cried out. "The Lord has brought the three of us here to let the king of Moab defeat us." But King Jehoshaphat of Judah asked, "Is there no prophet of the Lord with us? If there is, we can ask the Lord what to do." One of King Joram's officers replied, "Elisha son of Shaphat is here. He used to be Elijah's personal assistant." Jehoshaphat said, "Then the Lord will speak through him." So the kings of Israel, Judah, and Edom went to consult with Elisha. "I want no part of you," Elisha said to the king of Israel. "Go to the pagan prophets of your father and mother." But King Joram said, "No, for it was the Lord who called us three kings here to be destroyed by the king of Moab." Elisha replied, "As surely as the Lord Almighty lives, whom I serve, I would not bother with you except for my respect for King Jehoshaphat of Judah. Now bring me someone who can play the harp." While the harp was being played, the power of the Lord came upon Elisha, and he said, "This is what the Lord says. This dry valley will be filled with pools of water. You will see neither wind nor rain, says the Lord, but this valley will be filled with water. You will have plenty for yourselves and for your cattle and your other animals. But this is only a simple thing to the Lord, for he will make you victorious over the army of Moab. You will conquer the best of their cities, even the fortified ones. You will cut down all their trees, stop up all their springs, and ruin all their good land with stones." And sure enough, the next day at about the time when the morning sacrifice was offered, water suddenly appeared. It was flowing from the direction of Edom, and soon there was water everywhere. Meanwhile, when the people of Moab heard about the three armies marching against them, they mobilized every man who could fight, young and old, and stationed themselves along the border. But when they got up the next morning, the sun was shining across the water, making it look as red as blood. "It's blood," the Moabites exclaimed. "The three armies have attacked and killed each other. Let's go and collect the plunder." When they arrived at the Israelite camp, the army of Israel rushed out and attacked the Moabites, who turned and ran. The army of Israel chased them into the land of Moab, destroying everything as they went. They destroyed the cities, covered their good land with stones, stopped up the springs, and cut down the good trees. Finally, only Kir-Hareseth was left, but even that came under attack. When the king of Moab saw that he was losing the battle, he led 700 of his warriors in a desperate attempt to break through the enemy lines near the king of Edom, but they failed to escape. So he took his oldest son, who would have been the next king, and sacrificed him as a burnt offering on the wall. As a result, the anger against Israel was great, so they withdrew and returned to their own land.
You're listening to The Bible Live with Soapy Dollar.
2 Kings 4. One day the widow of one of Elisha's fellow prophets came to Elisha and cried out to him, "My husband who served you is dead, and you know how he feared the Lord. But now a creditor has come, threatening to take my 2 sons as slaves. What can I do to help you? Elisha asked. Tell me, what do you have in the house? Nothing at all except a flask of olive oil, she replied. And Elisha said, borrow as many empty jars as you can from your friends and neighbors. Then go into your house with your sons and shut the door behind you. Pour olive oil from your flask into the jars, setting the jars aside as they are filled. So she did as she was told. Her sons brought many jars to her, and she filled one after another. Soon every container was full to the brim. Bring me another jar, she said to one of her sons. There aren't any more, he told her, and then the olive oil stopped flowing. When she told the man of God what had happened, he said to her, now sell the olive oil and pay your debts, and there will be enough money left over to support you and your sons. One day Elisha went to the town of Shunem. A wealthy woman lived there, and she invited him to eat some food. From then on, whenever he passed that way, he would stop there to eat. She said to her husband, I am sure this man who stops in from time to time is a holy man of God. Let's make a little room for him on the roof and furnish it with a bed, a table, a chair, and a lamp. Then he will have a place to stay whenever he comes by. One day Elisha returned to Shunem, and he went up to his room to rest. He said to his servant Gehazi, tell the woman I want to speak with her. When she arrived, Elisha said to Gehazi, tell her that we appreciate the kind concern she has shown us. Now ask her what we can do for her. Does she want me to put in a good word for her to the king or to the commander of the army? No, she replied, my family takes good care of me. Later, Elisha asked Gehazi, what do you think we can do for her? He suggested, she doesn't have a son and her husband is an old man. Call her back again, Elisha told him. When the woman returned, Elisha said to her as she stood in the doorway, next year at about this time, you will be holding a son in your arms. No, my lord, she protested. Please don't lie to me like that, O man of God. But sure enough, the woman soon became pregnant, and at that time the following year she had a son, just as Elisha had said. One day, when the child was older, he went out to visit his father, who was working with the harvesters. Suddenly he complained, my head hurts, my head hurts. His father said to one of the servants, carry him home to his mother. So the servant took him home, and his mother held him on her lap. But around noontime he died. She carried him up to the bed of the man of God, then shut the door and left him there. She sent a message to her husband, send one of the servants and a donkey, so that I can hurry to the man of God and come right back. Why today? He asked. It is neither a new moon festival nor a Sabbath. But she said, it's all right. So she saddled the donkey and said to the servant, hurry, don't slow down on my account unless I tell you to. As she approached the man of God at Mount Carmel, Elisha saw her in the distance. He said to Gehazi, look, the woman from Shunem is coming. Run out to meet her and ask her, is everything all right with you, with your husband, and with your child? Yes, the woman told Gehazi, everything is fine. But when she came to the man of God at the mountain, she fell to the ground before him and caught hold of his feet. Gehazi began to push her away, but the man of God said, leave her alone. Something is troubling her deeply, and the Lord has not told me what it is. Then she said, it is you, my Lord, who said I would have a son. And didn't I tell you not to raise my hopes? Then Elisha said to Gehazi, get ready to travel. Take my staff and go. Don't talk to anyone along the way. Go quickly and lay the staff on the child's face. But the boy's mother said, as surely as the Lord lives and you yourself live, I won't go home unless you go with me. So Elisha returned with her. Gehazi hurried on ahead and laid the staff on the child's face, but nothing happened. There was no sign of life. He returned to meet Elisha and told him the child is still dead. When Elisha arrived, the child was indeed dead, lying there on the prophet's bed. He went in alone and shut the door behind him and prayed to the Lord. Then he lay down on the child's body, placing his mouth on the child's mouth, his eyes on the child's eyes, and his hands on the child's hands. And the child's body began to grow warm again. Elisha got up and walked back and forth in the room a few times. Then he stretched himself out again on the child. This time the boy sneezed 7 times and opened his eyes. Then Elisha summoned Gehazi. Call the child's mother, he said, and when she came in, Elisha said, Here, take your son. She fell at his feet, overwhelmed with gratitude. Then she picked up her son and carried him downstairs. Elisha now returned to Gilgal, but there was a famine in the land. One day, as the group of prophets was seated before him, he said to his servant, "Put on a large kettle and make some stew for these men." One of the young men went out into the field to gather vegetables and came back with a pocketful of wild gourds. He shredded them and put them into the kettle without realizing they were poisonous. But after the men had eaten a bite or two, they cried out, "Man of God, there's poison in this stew." So they would not eat it. Elisha said, "Bring me some flour." Then he threw it into the kettle and said, "Now it's all right. Go ahead and eat." And then it did not harm them. One day a man from Baal Shalishah brought the man of God a sack of fresh grain and 20 loaves of barley bread made from the first grain of his harvest. Elisha said, "Give it to the group of prophets so they can eat." "What?" his servant exclaimed. "Feed 100 people with only this?" But Elisha replied, "Give it to the group of prophets so they can eat it, for the Lord says there will be plenty for all. There will even be some left over." And sure enough, there was plenty for all, and some left over, just as the Lord had promised.
You're listening to The Bible Live with Soapy Dollar.
2 Kings 5. The king of Aram had high admiration for Naaman, the commander of his army, because through him the Lord had given Aram great victories. But though Naaman was a mighty warrior, he suffered from leprosy. Now groups of Aramean raiders had invaded the land of Israel, and among their captives was a young girl who had been given to Naaman's wife as a maid. One day the girl said to her mistress, "I wish my master would go to see the prophet in Samaria. He would heal him of his leprosy." So Naaman told the king what the young girl from Israel had said. "Go and visit the prophet," the king told him. "I will send a letter of introduction for you to carry to the king of Israel." So Naaman started out, taking as gifts 750 pounds of silver, 150 pounds of gold, and 10 sets of clothing. The letter to the king of Israel said, "With this letter I present my servant Naaman. I want you to heal him of his leprosy." When the king of Israel read it, he tore his clothes in dismay and said, "This man sends me a leper to heal? Am I God that I can kill and give life? He is only trying to find an excuse to invade us again." But when Elisha, the man of God, heard about the king's reaction, he sent this message to him, "Why are you so upset? Send Naaman to me, and he will learn that there is a true prophet here in Israel." So Naaman went with his horses and chariots and waited at the door of Elisha's house. But Elisha sent a messenger out to meet him with this message, "Go and wash yourself 7 times in the Jordan River. Then your skin will be restored, and you will be healed of leprosy." But Naaman became angry and stalked away. "I thought he would surely come out to meet me," he said. "I expected him to wave his hand over the leprosy and call on the name of the Lord his God and heal me. Aren't the Abana River and the Pharpar River of Damascus better than all the rivers of Israel put together? Why shouldn't I wash in them and be healed?" So Naaman turned and went away in a rage. But his officers tried to reason with him and said, "Sir, if the prophet had told you to do some great thing, wouldn't you have done it? So you should certainly obey him when he says simply to go and wash and be cured." So Naaman went down to the Jordan River and dipped himself 7 times as the man of God had instructed him. And his flesh became as healthy as a young child's, and he was healed. Then Naaman and his entire party went back to find the man of God. They stood before him, and Naaman said, "I know at last that there is no God in all the world except in Israel. Now please accept my gifts." But Elisha replied, "As surely as the Lord lives, whom I serve, I will not accept any gifts." And though Naaman urged him to take the gifts, Elisha refused. Then Naaman said, "All right, but please allow me to load 2 of my mules with earth from this place, and I will take it back home with me. From now on I will never again offer any burnt offerings or sacrifices to any other god except the Lord. However, may the Lord pardon me in this one thing. When my master the king goes into the temple of the god Rimmon to worship there and leans on my arm, may the Lord pardon me when I bow too." "Go in peace," Elisha said. So Naaman started home again. But Gehazi, Elisha's servant, said to himself, "My master should not have let this Aramean get away without accepting his gifts. As surely as the Lord lives, I will chase after him and get something from him." So Gehazi set off after him. When Naaman saw him running after him, he climbed down from his chariot and went to meet him. "Is everything all right?" Naaman asked. "Yes," Gehazi said, "but my master has sent me to tell you that 2 young prophets from the hill country of Ephraim have just arrived. He would like 75 pounds of silver and 2 sets of clothing to give to them. By all means, take 150 pounds of silver, Naaman insisted. He gave him 2 sets of clothing, tied up the money in 2 bags, and sent 2 of his servants to carry the gifts for Gehazi. But when they arrived at the hill, Gehazi took the gifts from the servants and sent the men back. Then he hid the gifts inside the house. When he went in to his master, Elisha asked him, "Where have you been, Gehazi?" "I haven't been anywhere," he replied. But Elisha asked him, "Don't you realize that I was there in spirit when Naaman stepped down from his chariot to meet you? Is this the time to receive money and clothing and olive groves and vineyards and sheep and oxen and servants? Because you have done this, you and your children's children will suffer from Naaman's leprosy forever." When Gehazi left the room, he was leprous. His skin was as white as snow.
You're listening to The Bible Live with Soapy Dollar.
2 Kings 6. One day the group of prophets came to Elisha and told him, "As you can see, this place where we meet with you is too small. Let's go down to the Jordan River where there are plenty of logs. There we can build a new place for us to meet." "All right," he told them, "go ahead." "Please come with us," someone suggested. "I will," he said. When they arrived at the Jordan, they began cutting down trees. But as one of them was chopping, his axe head fell into the river. "Ah, my lord," he cried, "it was a borrowed axe." "Where did it fall?" the man of God asked. When he showed him the place, Elisha cut a stick and threw it into the water. Then the axe head rose to the surface and floated. "Grab it," Elisha said, and the man reached out and grabbed it. End of reading 2 Kings 3:1 through 6:7.
You're listening to the Bible Live with Soapy Dollar.
Very interesting passage tonight, very interesting moments, very interesting encounters. Elisha is an amazing spokesman for God as God places his seal of approval on Elisha. Remember, Elijah was fed by ravens. The widow's food was multiplied. A widow's son was raised under Elijah. Altar and the sacrifice were consumed at Mount Carmel. Soldiers were consumed. The Jordan River parted, and he was transported into heaven on chariots of fire. Well, now we see Elisha, his successor. The Jordan River is parted for him. The spring is purified at Jericho. Water is provided for the armies of the kings of Israel and Judah. The widow's oil is multiplied. A dead boy is raised to life. A poison in the stew is purified. Naaman healed of leprosy. Gehazi, his servant, becoming leprous, and an axe head floating. God put his seal of approval on these two men, these two prophets, Elijah and Elisha. Then God delivered the armies of Moab into their hands and allowed them a great victory. This is not a godly king, but God delivers a victory to them. Then we see Elisha helping this poor widow. Remember, when people got into debt in those days, their children could be taken as slaves as a way of paying for their debt. This woman was in danger of losing her 2 sons, which was not just an emotional matter. She would have lost her only means of support. God gives them oil, keeps the oil jar filled. Don't you wish they had more oil jars? They would have kept filling them up, but they couldn't find any more jars. That was the only limitation. There's a lesson for us there as well. What God will do in us and with us and through us is only limited by how much we will empty ourselves and present ourselves for His filling. And then there's this woman from Shunem, kind to the prophet of God, and God blesses them because of that. And I think there is a lesson there about being kind to those who serve the Lord, your pastor, missionaries that come to your church. Now I've been emailing a young lady, part of a youth group that I ministered to. Now she and her husband Robert are serving the Lord in Thailand, in Bangkok, and her parents are going through some health problems now. It makes me realize how kind they've been to me through the years. It's good that we support missionaries and our pastors and our youth pastors and honor them and help them. You see a little bit of Gehazi's selfishness. Since this woman wasn't someone that they could get something out of, he wasn't so kind to her, and yet he goes overboard in trying to influence this commander of the army, this general, Naaman. That is a remarkable story. This man is genuinely converted to the true and living God. And yet he says, in my official duties, I still have to go into the king, into the pagan temple. He went out of his way to explain that to Elisha. And he said, don't worry about it. Go in peace. Very interesting story about Gehazi, his greed. When people get into religion and into faith and whatever work it might be, even Christian radio, and your eye is on the money, Suzanne and I know when you mix ministry and money, it's always very, very dangerous. You can't help but mix them because the way life is, everything requires resources. It requires money. But you better be very, very careful in your treatment of money and not let it capture your heart. That's for sure. Well, tomorrow night we'll continue on with the stories of Elisha, his continuing ministry, and what God does with the people of Israel. See you then.
Bible Live with Soapy Dollar. Soapy reads from the New Living Translation by Tyndale House Publishers. The Bible Live is dedicated to helping promote spiritual revival across America, and your financial support is needed. Please mail your tax-deductible gift to the Bible Live, Post Office Box 18888. That's the Bible Live, P.O. Box 18888, San Antonio, Texas 78218. You may also make credit card donations at the ministry website, thebiblelive.com. Now don't forget, join us each weekday for the Bible Live with Soapy Dollar. Start today, and in 1 year's time, we will read and respond together to the entire Bible. Let the most important word you hear each day be God's Word.
Now, here's the host of the Bible Live, Soapy Dollar.
Happy as I could possibly be to be with you this evening. Thank you for joining us. This is a great occasion for me each and every day. Honestly, folks, it is a privilege to be able to open the Scriptures, the book of books. This book that I have loved. I have memorized so very many passages from it and so many verses. It has guided my life faithfully now for so many years, through childhood and teenage years and college years, traveling and ministering around the world, marriage, children. Such a faithful, reliable guide for life. It describes life as it really is. This is not some pie-in-the-sky, elitist religious tome that only certain people can understand, deeply spiritual, but it's real. It's everyday life. What an amazing series of books. 66 books written over a period of 1,400 years, but there is a continuity, there is a consistency, there is a ring of truth about it. Real people in real times, in real life, how God related to them individually, families, couples, and also nations and people groups. We can learn so much about reality as we walk through the Scriptures together. Well, we're going to continue our way through the book of 2 Kings tonight. I'll catch you up on that in a moment. Right now, though, let's go to that beautiful Psalm 72 with its theme of the perfect King, which is a foreshadowing of Jesus the Messiah.
Psalm 72. Give justice to the king, O God, and righteousness to the king's son. Help him judge your people in the right way. Let the poor always be treated fairly. May the mountains yield prosperity for all, and may the hills be fruitful, because the king does what is right. Help him to defend the poor, to rescue the children of the needy, and to crush their oppressors. May he live as long as the sun shines, as long as the moon continues in the skies, yes, forever. May his reign be as refreshing as the springtime rains, like the showers that water the earth. May all the godly flourish during his reign. May there be abundant prosperity until the end of time. May he reign from sea to sea, and from the Euphrates River to the ends of the earth. Desert nomads will bow before him. His enemies will fall before him in the dust. The western kings of Tarshish and the islands will bring him tribute. The eastern kings of Sheba and Seba will bring him gifts. All kings will bow before him, and all nations will serve him. He will rescue the poor when they cry to him. He will help the oppressed who have no one to defend them. He feels pity for the weak and the needy, and he will rescue them. He will save them from oppression and from violence, for their lives are precious to him. Long live the king! May the gold of Sheba be given to him. May the people always pray for him and bless him all day long. May there be abundant crops throughout the land, flourishing even on the mountaintops. May the fruit trees flourish as they do in Lebanon, sprouting up like grass in a field. May the king's name endure forever. May it continue as long as the sun shines. May all nations be blessed through him and bring him praise. Bless the Lord God, the God of Israel, who alone does such wonderful things. Bless his glorious name forever. Let the whole earth be filled with his glory. Amen and amen. This ends the prayers of David, son of Jesse. End of reading Psalm 72.
Blessed be your name when the sun's shining down on me, when the world's all as it should be. Blessed be your name.
You're listening to the Bible Live with Soapy Dollar.
Blessed be your name on a road marked with suffering. Though there's pain in the offering. Blessed be your name.
And we are back. Thank you for joining us again. This is the Bible Live. We just listened to a beautiful passage from Psalm 72. It says, this ends the prayers of David, son of Jesse. This is the end of Book 2 within the Psalms. Did you know that there are several books within the Psalms? They're divided into sections, and these sections relate, generally speaking, in terms of theme, to the first 5 books of the Bible: Genesis, Exodus, Leviticus, Numbers, and Deuteronomy. A general way to outline them and understand them. This was the end of Book 2, Psalms 42 through 72. Book 3, mainly written by Asaph and Asaph's descendants, is similar to the book of Leviticus. Genesis, Exodus, Leviticus. There's a theme of God's holiness and of worship, and we'll pick up on that. But this beautiful psalm tonight about the king, as it looks forward to the perfect leader, the perfect, righteous, just, but at the same time merciful, generous leader. Of course, looking forward to the Messiah who would come. Well, let's turn back now to our readings in the books of 1st and 2nd Kings. Tonight we pick up at chapter 6. We've just been reading about a number of miracles of Elisha, the successor to Elijah as the principal prophet of the realm. Particularly the last great miracle here, the healing of Naaman in chapter 5, this commander of the armies of Aram to the northwest of Israel, the great power of the moment with their capital in Damascus. We're going to pick up now as God delivers Israel from the attacks of the Arameans out of Damascus. Let's listen now and learn from the Bible Live. 2 Kings 6:8 through 9:15. 2 Kings 6. When the king of Aram was at war with Israel, he would confer with his officers and say, "We will mobilize our forces at such and such a place." But immediately Elisha, the man of God, would warn the king of Israel, "Do not go near that place, for the Arameans are planning to mobilize their troops there." So the king of Israel would send word to the place indicated by the man of God, warning the people there to be on their guard. This happened several times. The king of Aram became very upset over this. He called in his officers and demanded, "Which of you is a traitor? Who has been informing the king of Israel of my plans?" "It's not us, my lord," one of the officers replied. "Elisha the prophet in Israel tells the king of Israel even the words you speak in the privacy of your bedroom." The king commanded, "Go and find out where Elisha is, and we will send troops to seize him." And the report came back, "Elisha is at Dothan." So one night the king of Aram sent a great army with many chariots and horses to surround the city. When the servant of the man of God got up early the next morning and went outside, there were troops, horses, and chariots everywhere. "Ah, my lord, what will we do now?" he cried out to Elisha. "Don't be afraid," Elisha told him, "for there are more on our side than on theirs." Then Elisha prayed, "O Lord, open his eyes and let him see." The Lord opened his servant's eyes, and when he looked up, he saw that the hillside around Elisha was filled with horses and chariots of fire. As the Aramean army advanced toward them, Elisha prayed, "O Lord, please make them blind." And the Lord did as Elisha asked. Then Elisha went out and told them, "You have come the wrong way. This isn't the right city. Follow me, and I will take you to the man you are looking for." And he led them to Samaria. As soon as they had entered Samaria, Elisha prayed, "O Lord, now open their eyes and let them see." And the Lord did, and they discovered that they were in Samaria.
When the king of Israel saw them, he shouted to Elisha, "My father, should I kill them?" "Of course not," Elisha told him. "Do we kill prisoners of war? Give them food and drink, and send them home again to their master." So the king made a great feast for them, and then sent them home to their king. After that, the Aramean raiders stayed away from the land of Israel. Some time later, however, King Ben-Hadad of Aram mobilized his entire army and besieged Samaria. As a result, there was a great famine in the city. After a while, even a donkey's head sold for 2 pounds of silver, and a cup of dove's dung cost about 2 ounces of silver. One day, as the king of Israel was walking along the wall of the city, a woman called out to him, "Please help me, my lord the king." "If the Lord doesn't help you, what can I do?" he retorted. "I have neither food nor wine to give you." But then the king asked, "What is the matter?" She replied, "This woman proposed that we eat my son one day and her son the next. So we cooked my son and ate him. Then the next day I said, 'Kill your son so we can eat him.' But she had hidden him." When the king heard this, he tore his clothes in despair. And as the king walked along the wall, the people could see that he was wearing sackcloth underneath, next to his skin. "May God kill me if I don't execute Elisha son of Shaphat this very day," the king vowed. Elisha was sitting in his house at a meeting with the leaders of Israel when the king sent a messenger to summon him. But before the messenger arrived, Elisha said to the leaders, "A murderer has sent a man to kill me. When he arrives, shut the door and keep him out. His master will soon follow him." While Elisha was still saying this, the messenger arrived. And the king said, "It is the Lord who has brought this trouble on us. Why should I wait any longer for the Lord?"
You're listening to the Bible Live with Soapy Dollar.
2 Kings 7. Elisha replied, "Hear this message from the Lord. This is what the Lord says. By this time tomorrow in the markets of Samaria, 5 quarts of fine flour will cost only half an ounce of silver, and 10 quarts of barley grain will cost only half an ounce of silver." The officer assisting the king said to the man of God, "That couldn't happen even if the Lord opened the windows of heaven." But Elisha replied, "You will see it happen, but you won't be able to eat any of it." Now there were 4 men with leprosy sitting at the entrance of the city gates. "Why should we sit here waiting to die?" they asked each other. "We will starve if we stay here, and we will starve if we go back into the city. So we might as well go out and surrender to the Aramean army. If they let us live, so much the better, but if they kill us, we would have died anyway." So that evening they went out to the camp of the Arameans, but no one was there. For the Lord had caused the whole army of Aram to hear the clatter of speeding chariots and the galloping of horses and the sounds of a great army approaching. "The king of Israel has hired the Hittites and Egyptians to attack us," they cried out. So they panicked and fled into the night, abandoning their tents, horses, donkeys, and everything else, and they fled for their lives. When the lepers arrived at the edge of the camp, they went into one tent after another, eating, drinking wine, and carrying out silver and gold and clothing, and hiding it. Finally they said to each other, "This is not right. This is wonderful news, and we aren't sharing it with anyone. If we wait until morning, some terrible calamity will certainly fall upon us. Come on, let's go back and tell the people at the palace." So they went back to the city and told the gatekeepers what had happened, that they had gone out to the Aramean camp and no one was there. The horses and donkeys were tethered and the tents were all in order, but there was not a single person around. Then the gatekeepers shouted the news to the people in the palace. The king got out of bed in the middle of the night and told his officers, "I know what has happened. The Arameans know we are starving, so they have left their camp and have hidden in the fields. They are expecting us to leave the city, and then they will take us alive and capture the city." One of his officers replied, "We had better send out scouts to check into this. Let them take 5 of the remaining horses. If something happens to them, it won't be a greater loss than if they stay here and die with the rest of us." So 2 chariots with horses were prepared, and the king sent scouts to see what had happened to the Aramean army. They went all the way to the Jordan River, following a trail of clothing and equipment that the Arameans had thrown away in their mad rush to escape. The scouts returned and told the king about it. Then the people of Samaria rushed out and plundered the Aramean camp. So it was true that 5 quarts of fine flour were sold that day for half an ounce of silver, and 10 quarts of barley grain were sold for half an ounce of silver, just as the Lord had promised. The king appointed his officer to control the traffic at the gate, but he was knocked down and trampled to death as the people rushed out. So everything happened exactly as the man of God had predicted when the king came to his house. The man of God had said to the king, "By this time tomorrow in the markets of Samaria, 5 quarts of fine flour will cost half an ounce of silver, and 10 quarts of barley grain will cost half an ounce of silver." The king's officer had replied, "That couldn't happen even if the Lord opened the windows of heaven." And the man of God had said, "You will see it happen, but you won't be able to eat any of it." And so it was, for the people trampled him to death at the gate.
You're listening to the Bible Live with Soapy Dollar.
2 Kings 8. Elisha had told the woman whose son he had brought back to life, "Take your family and move to some other place, for the Lord has called for a famine on Israel that will last for 7 years. So the woman did as the man of God instructed. She took her family and lived in the land of the Philistines for 7 years. After the famine ended, she returned to the land of Israel, and she went to see the king about getting back her house and land. As she came in, the king was talking to Gehazi, the servant of the man of God. The king had just said, "Tell me some stories about the great things Elisha has done." And Gehazi was telling the king about the time Elisha had brought a boy back to life. At that very moment, the mother of the boy walked in to make her appeal to the king. "Look, my lord," Gehazi exclaimed, "here is the woman now, and this is her son, the very one Elisha brought back to life." "Is this true?" the king asked her, and she told him that it was. So he directed one of his officials to see to it that everything she had lost was restored to her, including the value of any crops that had been harvested during her absence. Now Elisha went to Damascus, the capital of Aram, where King Ben-Hadad lay sick. Someone told the king that the man of God had come. When the king heard the news, he said to Hazael, "Take a gift to the man of God. Then tell him to ask the Lord if I will get well again." So Hazael loaded down 40 camels with the finest products of Damascus as a gift for Elisha. He went in to him and said, "Your servant Ben-Hadad, the king of Aram, has sent me to ask you if he will recover." And Elisha replied, "Go and tell him, you will recover, but the Lord has shown me that he will actually die." Elisha stared at Hazael with a fixed gaze until Hazael became uneasy. Then the man of God started weeping. "What's the matter, my lord?" Hazael asked him. Elisha replied, "I know the terrible things you will do to the people of Israel. You will burn their fortified cities, kill their young men, dash their children to the ground, and rip open their pregnant women." Then Hazael replied, "How could a nobody like me ever accomplish such a great feat?" But Elisha answered, "The Lord has shown me that you are going to be the king of Aram." When Hazael went back, the king asked him, "What did Elisha tell you?" And Hazael replied, "He told me that you will surely recover." But the next day Hazael took a blanket, soaked it in water, and held it over the king's face until he died. Then Hazael became the next king of Aram. Jehoram, son of King Jehoshaphat of Judah, began to rule over Judah in the 5th year of King Joram's reign in Israel. Joram was the son of Ahab. Jehoram was 32 years old when he became king, and he reigned in Jerusalem 8 years. But Jehoram followed the example of the kings of Israel, and was as wicked as King Ahab, for he had married one of Ahab's daughters. So Jehoram did what was evil in the Lord's sight. But the Lord was not willing to destroy Judah, for he had made a covenant with David, and promised that his descendants would continue to rule forever. During Jehoram's reign, the Edomites revolted against Judah, and crowned their own king. So Jehoram went with all his chariots to attack the town of Zair. The Edomites surrounded him and his charioteers, but he escaped at night under cover of darkness. Jehoram's army, however, deserted him and fled. Edom has been independent from Judah to this day. The town of Libnah revolted about that same time. The rest of the events in Jehoram's reign and all his deeds are recorded in the book of the history of the kings of Judah. When Jehoram died, he was buried with his ancestors in the city of David. Then his son Ahaziah became the next king. Ahaziah, son of Jehoram, began to rule over Judah in the 12th year of King Joram's reign in Israel. King Joram was the son of Ahab. Ahaziah was 22 years old when he became king, and he reigned in Jerusalem 1 year. His mother was Athaliah, a granddaughter of King Omri of Israel. Ahaziah followed the evil example of King Ahab's family, doing what was evil in the Lord's sight. because he was related by marriage to the family of Ahab. Ahaziah joined King Joram of Israel in his war against King Hazael of Aram at Ramoth-Gilead. When King Joram was wounded in the battle, he returned to Jezreel to recover from his wounds. While Joram was there, King Ahaziah of Judah went to visit him.
You're listening to the Bible Live with Soapy Dollar.
2 Kings 9. Meanwhile, Elisha the prophet had summoned a member of the group of prophets. "Get ready to go to Ramoth-Gilead," he told him. "Take this vial of olive oil with you, and find Jehu son of Jehoshaphat and grandson of Nimshi. Call him into a back room, away from his friends, and pour the oil over his head. Say to him, 'This is what the Lord says, I anoint you to be the king over Israel.' Then open the door and run for your life." So the young prophet did as he was told and went to Ramoth-Gilead. When he arrived there, he found Jehu sitting in a meeting with the other army officers. "I have a message for you, Commander," he said. "For which one of us?" Jehu asked. "For you, Commander," he replied. So Jehu left the others and went into the house. Then the young prophet poured the oil over Jehu's head and said, "This is what the Lord, the God of Israel, says. I anoint you king over the Lord's people, Israel. You are to destroy the family of Ahab, your master. In this way I will avenge the murder of my prophets and all the Lord's servants who were killed by Jezebel. The entire family of Ahab must be wiped out, every male, slave and free alike, in Israel. I will destroy the family of Ahab as I destroyed the families of Jeroboam son of Nebat and of Baasha son of Ahijah. Dogs will eat Ahab's wife Jezebel at the plot of land in Jezreel, and no one will bury her." Then the young prophet opened the door and ran. Jehu went back to his fellow officers, and one of them asked him, "What did that crazy fellow want? Is everything all right?" "You know the way such a man babbles on," Jehu replied. "You're lying," they said. "Tell us." So Jehu told them what the man had said, and that at the Lord's command he had been anointed king over Israel. They quickly spread out their cloaks on the bare steps and blew a trumpet, shouting, "Jehu is king!" So Jehu, son of Jehoshaphat and grandson of Nimshi, formed a conspiracy against King Joram. Now Joram had been with the army at Ramoth-Gilead, defending Israel against the forces of King Hazael of Aram. But Joram had been wounded in the fighting and had returned to Jezreel to recover from his wounds. So Jehu told the men with him, "Since you want me to be king, don't let anyone escape to Jezreel to report what we have done." End of reading 2 Kings 6:8 through 9:15.
You are all I need when I'm surrounded. You are all I need if I'm by myself. Oh, you fill me when I'm empty. There's nothing else. Oh, you are all I need.
If we could just learn that lesson, as God deals now with the people of Israel, the northern tribes. Remember, the kingdom is divided now in these times that we're reading about. Israel, the 10 tribes in the north, is separate from Judah and Benjamin, the tribes in the south around Jerusalem. We've been following and seeing how destructive an influence Ahab and Jezebel and their children now have on Israel as they lead the people of Israel into the worship of false gods and all of the immorality, the cruelty that went with that abandonment of the true and living God. In His goodness, righteousness, and His insistence on their obedience as He has dealt with the people and blessed them and brought them, and is using the people of Israel as a witness for Himself, a witness of the true and living God. We have seen how it should have happened as the commander of the armies of Aram, Naaman himself, actually becomes a convert to the true and living God. This is what should have happened over and over again as the people of Israel shine forth and let their witness be known about the true and living God. That was God's plan for them, that they would shine clearly as a great witness to the nations around them. Every now and then we get a glimmer of that, but it seems to have been the exception. Most of the time the people walk away from God, and they have leaders that lead them away from the worship of God. We are prone to wander. There's an old hymn that talks about that, and we are prone to wander, but what God has been so good to them, has blessed them so abundantly, has revealed Himself so clearly to them, that it is astounding at times to see them walk away from Him. Now, this is a beautiful picture we have tonight in chapter 7. This is probably Ben-Hadad II who attacks Samaria, the capital city in the north. They lay a siege and they're starving the people, and this is terrible. People are so starved that cannibalism sets in. They eat their own children. way back 550 years before, Moses told the people that if they abandoned God, a whole series of things would happen. And among them was that they would be attacked, there would be siege, there would be hunger, they would even eat their own children. And here we see it coming true. But God delivers them from this siege. Miraculously, the Arameans are confused, and they flee for their lives, thinking that the Hittites and the Egyptians have attacked them in the night. And these 4 lepers who are outside the city gates because of their leprosy, they are the ones that discover the abandoned camp, and they have a feast. Then they say, this is not right. This is a day of good news, and we're not sharing it with anyone. And they went back and shared it with the people. If you are one who knows God, if you found the peace and the joy and the forgiveness that has satisfied your soul, you need to go back and share that good news. You remember when Elijah was fleeing from Jezebel. Remember after the battle, the spiritual battle with the prophets of Baal at Mount Carmel, God sent the fire down and burned up his offering. Remember, God told Elijah to go back, and he was to anoint Hazael to be the king of Aram, who he was going to use to judge the nation of Israel. He said to anoint Jehu, the king of Israel, and Elisha to be his successor. Now, we've just seen Jehu come on the scene. This Jehu is going to clean the house, folks. He is going to wipe out the effects of Ahab and Jezebel. He goes overboard, goes a little bit too far, but he certainly is a hero. I hope you'll join us for that reading next time.
Here is Soapy Dollar.
Good evening, everyone. Hope you've had a good day. We trust that you have, and that we're going to put the perfect ending to an already good day. That's my hope, that the reading of the Scriptures will be just the icing on the cake of what has been a good day of you, experiencing God's presence, God's peace, God's power, God's wisdom, God's protection, His provision for you today. I just hope that's been your experience. But otherwise, sometimes there are challenges in life. Sometimes there are obstacles. There are difficulties. Sometimes there's even failures. We trip and stumble and fall, but that doesn't keep it from still being a good day as we come to the Lord for whatever we need. Maybe we need forgiveness and cleansing. Wipe that dust off of us, get back up, and know that He's forgiven us and cleansed us, and that He will carry us on forward as well. I hope you've had that kind of a day, and that tonight as we gather around the Scriptures, around the Bible, you're going to find some encouragement. You're going to find that word that you need to hear, maybe that question that needs to be answered, maybe that little bit of wisdom that you need for a decision that's on your plate these days. I hope that you'll find that tonight, and God will speak to you from His Word as we listen together to the Bible live on the radio. We are going to continue our way through the books of 1st and 2nd Kings. Now, we have been making our way through these books of history based on the lives of the kings and the queens of Israel in the north, the 10 tribes in the north, and Judah in the south. We have come now to the time of Jehu, this man that Elijah anointed. He's going to clean house some of the wickedness and the wicked leaders that were influencing Israel. Right now, though, before we get to that, let's go to our Wisdom and Worship segment on the Bible Live.
Psalm 73. Truly, God is good to Israel, to those whose hearts are pure. But as for me, I came so close to the edge of the cliff. My feet were slipping, and I was almost gone. For I envied the proud when I saw them prosper despite their wickedness. They seem to live such a painless life. Their bodies are so healthy and strong. They aren't troubled like other people or plagued with problems like everyone else. They wear pride like a jeweled necklace, and their clothing is woven of cruelty. These fat cats have everything their hearts could ever wish for. They scoff and speak only evil. In their pride they seek to crush others. They boast against the very heavens, and their words strut throughout the earth. And so the people are dismayed and confused, drinking in all their words. Does God realize what is going on, they ask? Is the Most High even aware of what is happening? Look at these arrogant people enjoying a life of ease while their riches multiply. Was it for nothing that I kept my heart pure and kept myself from doing wrong? All I get is trouble all day long. Every morning brings me pain. If I had really spoken this way, I would have been a traitor to your people. So I tried to understand why the wicked prosper. But what a difficult task it is. Then one day I went into your sanctuary, O God, and I thought about the destiny of the wicked. Truly, you put them on a slippery path and send them sliding over the cliff to destruction. In an instant they are destroyed, swept away by terrors. Their present life is only a dream that is gone when they awake. When you arise, O Lord, you will make them vanish from this life. Then I realized how bitter I had become, how pained I had been by all I had seen. I was so foolish and ignorant. I must have seemed like a senseless animal to you. Yet I still belong to you. You are holding my right hand. You will keep on guiding me with your counsel, leading me to a glorious destiny. Whom have I in heaven but you? I desire you more than anything on earth. My health may fail, and my spirit may grow weak, but God remains the strength of my heart. He is mine forever. But those who desert him will perish, for you destroy those who abandon you. But as for me, how good it is to be near God. I have made the sovereign Lord my shelter, and I will tell everyone about the wonderful things you do. End of reading Psalm 73.
God heals us when we're broken. Don't leave your heart broken.
This is the Bible Live with Soapy Dollar.
Into the light. He is there for us with all of his heart. He has the answer. He hears your prayer. Turn every corner and you'll find him there. Don't leave your heart and soul. Oh, no.
The worst thing we can do is leave that prayer unspoken. If God puts someone or something on your heart, so much that is done is God's people just responding to the Lord. You know, we don't have to wait for an event. We Americans, we're really big on events. We think we got to have an event. But God isn't waiting on an event. He's just waiting on his people to turn to him. He's just waiting on us to pray from wherever we are, individually or with our friends at work or with our families. We can pray anytime. And yet there is something good about a solemn assembly, they were called in the Old Testament. There can be something good about coming together. Whatever it is, don't let that prayer go unspoken. Well, now we turn to a great prophet of prayer. We're talking about Elijah, then Elisha as well. Both great men of prayer. We turn to the book of 2 Kings. We've been reading through now the devastating effect that Ahab and Jezebel, this couple, had on not only the 10 tribes of the north, as they promote godlessness, immorality, extreme wickedness, the worship of other than the true and living God. Oh, they couched it really nice. I'm sure they made it sound real good, like they were very religious, but they led people away from the true and living God and from serving God and from doing good and worshiping him as they had been commanded. They had a destructive effect on Israel in the north, but now their offspring, Athaliah, has married Jehoram, and now they've also begun to corrupt the people of Judah in the south. Jehu now has been anointed by Elijah and raised up to be God's judgment on Israel. The Bible Live. 9:16 through 12:16, 2 Kings 9. Then Jehu got into a chariot and rode to Jezreel to find King Joram, who was lying there wounded. King Ahaziah of Judah was there too, for he had gone to visit him. The watchman on the tower of Jezreel saw Jehu and his company approaching, so he shouted to Joram, "I see a company of troops coming. Send out a rider to find out if they are coming in peace," King Joram shouted back. So a rider went out to meet Jehu and said, "The king wants to know whether you are coming in peace." Jehu replied, "What do you know about peace? Get behind me." The watchman called out to the king, "The rider has met them, but he is not returning." So the king sent out a second rider. He rode up to them and demanded, "The king wants to know whether you come in peace." Again Jehu answered, "What do you know about peace? Get behind me." The watchman exclaimed, "The rider has met them, but he isn't returning either. It must be Jehu, son of Nimshi, for he is driving so recklessly." "Quick, get my chariot ready," King Joram commanded. Then King Joram of Israel and King Ahaziah of Judah rode out in their chariots to meet Jehu. They met him at the field that had belonged to Naboth of Jezreel. King Joram demanded, "Do you come in peace, Jehu?" Jehu replied, "How can there be peace as long as the idolatry and witchcraft of your mother Jezebel are all around us?" Then King Joram reined the chariot horses around and fled, shouting to King Ahaziah, "Treason, Ahaziah!" Then Jehu drew his bow and shot Joram between the shoulders. The arrow pierced his heart, and he sank down dead in his chariot.
Jehu said to Bidkar his officer, "Throw him into the field of Naboth of Jezreel. Do you remember when you and I were riding along behind his father Ahab? The Lord pronounced this message against him. I solemnly swear that I will repay him here on Naboth's property, says the Lord, for the murder of Naboth and his sons that I saw yesterday. So throw him out on Naboth's field, just as the Lord said." When King Ahaziah of Judah saw what was happening, he fled along the road to Beth-Hagan. Jehu rode after him, shouting, "Shoot him too!" So they shot Ahaziah in his chariot at the ascent of Gur, near Ibleam. He was able to go on as far as Megiddo, but he died there. His officials took him by chariot to Jerusalem, where they buried him with his ancestors in the city of David. Ahaziah's reign over Judah had begun in the 11th year of King Joram's reign in Israel. When Jezebel, the queen mother, heard that Jehu had come to Jezreel, she painted her eyelids and fixed her hair and sat at a window. When Jehu entered the gate of the palace, she shouted at him, "Have you come in peace, you murderer? You are just like Zimri, who murdered his master." Jehu looked up and saw her at the window and shouted, "Who is on my side?" And 2 or 3 eunuchs looked out at him. "Throw her down," Jehu yelled. So they threw her out the window, and some of her blood splattered against the wall and on the horses. And Jehu trampled her body under his horses' hooves. Then Jehu went into the palace and ate and drank. Afterward he said, "Someone go and bury this cursed woman, for she is the daughter of a king." But when they went out to bury her, they found only her skull, her feet, and her hands. When they returned and told Jehu, he stated, "This fulfills the message from the Lord which he spoke through his servant Elijah from Tishbe. At the plot of land in Jezreel, dogs will eat Jezebel's flesh. Her body will be scattered like dung on the field of Jezreel, so that no one will be able to recognize her."
You're listening to the Bible Live with Soapy Dollar.
2 Kings 10. Now Ahab had 70 sons living in the city of Samaria. So Jehu wrote a letter and sent copies to Samaria, to the officials of the city, to the leaders of the people, and to the guardians of King Ahab's sons. The letter said, "The king's sons are with you, and you have at your disposal chariots, horses, a fortified city, and weapons. As soon as you receive this letter, select the best qualified of King Ahab's sons to be your king, and prepare to fight for Ahab's dynasty." But they were paralyzed with fear and said, "2 kings couldn't stand against this man. What can we do?" So the palace and city administrators, together with the other leaders and the guardians of the king's sons, sent this message to Jehu: "We are your servants and will do anything you tell us. We will not make anyone king. Do whatever you think is best." Jehu responded with a second letter: "If you are on my side and are going to obey me, bring the heads of the king's sons to me at Jezreel at about this time tomorrow." Now the 70 sons of the king were being cared for by the leaders of Samaria, where they had been raised since childhood. When the letter arrived, the leaders killed all 70 of the king's sons. They placed their heads in baskets and presented them to Jehu at Jezreel. A messenger went to Jehu and said, "They have brought the heads of the king's sons." So Jehu ordered, "Pile them in 2 heaps at the entrance of the city gate, and leave them there until morning." In the morning he went out and spoke to the crowd that had gathered around them. "You aren't to blame," he told them. "I am the one who conspired against my master and killed him. But who killed all these? You can be sure that the message of the Lord that was spoken concerning Ahab's family will not fail. The Lord declared through his servant Elijah that this would happen." Then Jehu killed all of Ahab's relatives living in Jezreel, and all his important officials, personal friends, and priests. So Ahab was left without a single survivor. Then Jehu set out for Samaria. Along the way, while he was at Beth-Eked of the shepherds, he met some relatives of King Ahaziah of Judah. "Who are you?" he asked them. And they replied, "We are relatives of King Ahaziah. We are going to visit the sons of King Ahab and the queen mother." "Take them alive," Jehu shouted to his men. And they captured all 42 of them and killed them at the well of Beth-Eked. None of them escaped. When Jehu left there, he met Jehonadab, son of Rechab, who was coming to meet him. After they had greeted each other, Jehu said to him, "Are you as loyal to me as I am to you?" "Yes, I am," Jehonadab replied. "If you are," Jehu said, "then give me your hand." So Jehonadab put out his hand, and Jehu helped him into the chariot. Then Jehu said, "Now come with me, and see how devoted I am to the Lord." So Jehonadab rode along with him. When Jehu arrived in Samaria, he killed everyone who was left there from Ahab's family, just as the Lord had promised through Elijah. Then Jehu called a meeting of all the people of the city and said to them, "Ahab hardly worshipped Baal at all compared to the way I will worship him. Summon all the prophets and worshippers of Baal, and call together all his priests. See to it that every one of them comes, for I am going to offer a great sacrifice to Baal. Any of Baal's worshippers who fail to come will be put to death." But Jehu's plan was to destroy all the worshippers of Baal. Then Jehu ordered, "Prepare a solemn assembly to worship Baal." So they did. He sent messengers throughout all Israel, summoning those who worshipped Baal. They all came and filled the temple of Baal from one end to the other. And Jehu instructed the keeper of the wardrobe, "Be sure that every worshipper of Baal wears one of these robes." So robes were given to them. Then Jehu went into the temple of Baal with Jehonadab, son of Rechab. Jehu said to the worshippers of Baal, "Make sure that only those who worship Baal are here. Don't let anyone in who worships the Lord." So they were all inside the temple to offer sacrifices and burnt offerings. Now Jehu had surrounded the building with 80 of his men and had warned them, "If you let anyone escape, you will pay for it with your own life." As soon as Jehu had finished sacrificing the burnt offering, he commanded his guards and officers, "Go in and kill all of them. Don't let a single one escape." So they killed them all with their swords, and the guards and officers dragged their bodies outside. Then Jehu's men went into the fortress of the temple of Baal. They dragged out the sacred pillar used in the worship of Baal and destroyed it. They broke down the sacred pillar of Baal and wrecked the temple of Baal, converting it into a public toilet. That is what it is used for to this day. Thus Jehu destroyed every trace of Baal worship from Israel. He did not, however, destroy the gold calves at Bethel and Dan, the great sin that Jeroboam son of Nebat had led Israel to commit. Nonetheless, the Lord said to Jehu, "You have done well in following my instructions to destroy the family of Ahab. Because of this, I will cause your descendants to be the kings of Israel down to the 4th generation." But Jehu did not obey the law of the Lord, the God of Israel, with all his heart. He refused to turn from the sins of idolatry that Jeroboam had led Israel to commit. At about that time, the Lord began to reduce the size of Israel's territory. King Hazael conquered several sections of the country east of the Jordan River, including all of Gilead, Gad, Reuben, and Manasseh. He conquered the area from the town of Aroer by the Arnon Gorge to as far north as Gilead and Bashan. The rest of the events in Jehu's reign and all his deeds and achievements are recorded in the book of the history of the kings of Israel. When Jehu died, he was buried with his ancestors in Samaria. Then his son Jehoahaz became the next king. In all, Jehu reigned over Israel from Samaria for 28 years.
You're listening to the Bible Live with Soapy Dollar.
2 Kings 11. When Athaliah, the mother of King Ahaziah of Judah, learned that her son was dead, she set out to destroy the rest of the royal family. But Ahaziah's sister Jehosheba, the daughter of King Jehoram, took Ahaziah's infant son Joash and stole him away from among the rest of the king's children, who were about to be killed. Jehosheba put Joash and his nurse in a bedroom to hide him from Athaliah, so the child was not murdered. Joash and his nurse remained hidden in the temple of the Lord for 6 years, while Athaliah ruled over the land. In the 7th year of Athaliah's reign, Jehoiada the priest summoned the commanders, the Karite mercenaries, and the guards to come to the temple of the Lord. He made a pact with them and made them swear an oath of loyalty there in the Lord's temple. Then he showed them the king's son. Jehoiada told them, "This is what you must do. A third of you who are on duty on the Sabbath are to guard the royal palace itself. Another third of you are to stand guard at the Sur Gate, and the final third must stand guard behind the palace guard. These 3 groups will all guard the palace. The other 2 units who are off duty on the Sabbath must stand guard for the king at the Lord's temple. Form a bodyguard for the king and keep your weapons in hand. Any unauthorized person who approaches you must be killed. Stay right beside the king at all times." So the commanders did everything just as Jehoiada the priest ordered. The commanders took charge of the men reporting for duty that Sabbath, as well as those who were going off duty. They brought them all to Jehoiada the priest, and he supplied them with the spears and shields that had once belonged to King David, and were stored in the temple of the Lord. The guards stationed themselves around the king with their weapons ready. They formed a line from the south side of the temple around to the north side, and all around the altar. Then Jehoiada brought out Joash, the king's son, and placed the crown on his head. He presented Joash with a copy of God's covenant, and proclaimed him king. They anointed him, and all the people clapped their hands and shouted, "Long live the king!" When Athaliah heard all the noise made by the guards and the people, she hurried to the Lord's temple to see what was happening. And she saw the newly crowned king standing in his place of authority by the pillar, as was the custom at times of coronation. The officers and trumpeters were surrounding him, and people from all over the land were rejoicing and blowing trumpets. When Athaliah saw all this, she tore her clothes in despair and shouted, "Treason! Treason!" Then Jehoiada the priest ordered the commanders who were in charge of the troops, "Take her out of the temple and kill anyone who tries to rescue her. "Do not kill her here in the temple of the Lord." So they seized her and led her out to the gate where horses enter the palace grounds, and she was killed there. Then Jehoiada made a covenant between the Lord and the king and the people, that they would be the Lord's people. He also made a covenant between the king and the people. And all the people of the land went over to the temple of Baal and tore it down. They demolished the altars and smashed the idols to pieces, and they killed Matan, the priest of Baal, in front of the altars. Jehoiada the priest stationed guards at the temple of the Lord. Then the commanders, the Karite mercenaries, the guards, and all the people of the land escorted the king from the temple of the Lord. They went through the gate of the guards and into the palace, and the king took his seat on the royal throne. So all the people of the land rejoiced, and the city was peaceful because Athaliah had been killed at the king's palace. Joash was 7 years old when he became king.
You're listening to the Bible Live with Soapy Dollar.
2 Kings 12. Joash began to rule over Judah in the 7th year of King Jehu's reign in Israel. He reigned in Jerusalem 40 years. His mother was Zibiah from Beersheba. All his life, Joash did what was pleasing in the Lord's sight, because Jehoiada the priest instructed him. Yet even so, he did not destroy the pagan shrines, and the people still offered sacrifices and burned incense there. One day King Joash said to the priests, "Collect all the money brought as a sacred offering to the Lord's temple, whether it is a regular assessment, a payment of vows, or a voluntary gift. Let the priests take some of that money to pay for whatever repairs are needed at the temple." By the 23rd year of Joash's reign, the priests still had not repaired the temple. So King Joash called for Jehoiada and the other priests and asked them, "Why haven't you repaired the temple? Don't use any more gifts for your own needs. From now on, it must all be spent on getting the temple into good condition." So the priests agreed not to collect any more money from the people, and they also agreed not to undertake the repairs of the temple themselves. Then Jehoiada the priest bored a hole in the lid of a large chest, and set it on the right-hand side of the altar at the entrance of the temple of the Lord. The priest guarding the entrance put all of the people's contributions into the chest. Whenever the chest became full, the court secretary and the high priest counted the money that had been brought to the Lord's temple and put it into bags. Then they gave the money to the construction supervisors, who used it to pay the people working on the Lord's temple, the carpenters, the builders, the masons, and the stonecutters. They also used the money to buy timber and cut stone for repairing the Lord's temple, and they paid any other expenses related to the temple's restoration. The money brought to the temple was not used for making silver cups, lamp snuffers, basins, trumpets, or other articles of gold or silver for the temple of the Lord. It was paid out to the workmen who used it for the temple repairs. No accounting was required from the construction supervisors because they were honest and faithful workers. However, the money that was contributed for guilt offerings and sin offerings was not brought into the Lord's temple. It was given to the priests for their own use. End of reading 2 Kings 9:16 through 12:16.
At the cross, where there's room for me. At the cross, I am finally free. At the cross, burdens rolled away. At the cross.
This is a very important moment in the life of Israel. Jehu here, son of Jehoshaphat, one of the sons of Jehoshaphat, being used as an instrument of God, an instrument of judgment against the house of Ahab and Jezebel. And there's a lot of mixture here. Jehoshaphat gave his son Jehoram in marriage to a daughter, Athaliah, of Ahab and Jezebel. And then their son, Ahaziah, was the one here that Jehu kills, who is en route to becoming a king of Judah. So the descendants of Ahab and Jezebel are just about to gain a lock on both kingdoms of the north, Israel and Judah in the south. And yet Jehu is called, he was anointed by Elijah, remember, told by the Lord to go and anoint Jehu to be the future king. So Elisha sends a prophet to Ramoth Gilead across the Jordan River to the east. We read about this prophet that went over. He anointed Jehu and then ran for his life because Jehu is sort of a wild card. He's a loose cannon. Jehu immediately then rides to Jezreel, north of Samaria, in the northern part of Israel. He rides to Jezreel to find and kill King Joram of Israel and King Ahaziah of Judah. Ahaziah flees and is wounded, but he dies later at Megiddo. Back at Jezreel, Jehu kills Jezebel by letters and correspondence with the people of Samaria. He negotiates with the people in Samaria to kill 70 sons of Ahab. I mean, the immorality there in that family was tremendous. You've got a wild section here, but it's all about God's judgment. It does not hurt at all to have a scorecard when you're listening to this particular section of Scripture. It's a period of about 50 years when there was extreme turmoil in Israel and Judah, maybe 40 years. And it stems from Ahab and Jezebel and their wicked, idolatrous, immoral influence, not only in Israel, but as they began to influence down in Judah as well. And God uses Jehu as an instrument of judgment. I don't have time to go into all the details of whether Jehu was right in his deception of the priests. Remember that Israel was under strict orders not to worship other gods, and it was a capital offense for Israelites to do that. Think about that. See you next time.